My shadow ban from Reddit is over from spamming too many of those. So next week I can start cross promoting on Reddit again. I'm out of Reddit jail. We can get
Nice. Perfect. Yeah, because our latest episode is sitting at like -5 reviews or so, or -5 views. I'm just kidding. It's at 6 views. Um, so that's our lowest
But
viewed
man,
one
it
so far.
sucked because like the Tarkir one, I had like a really fun title and everything, and then now I feel like it's too late to drop it,
Yeah.
to share it to Reddit. So I was like f thinking about it. I was like, I'm out of Reddit jail. I can do it now, or I could do it Thursday. And it's like all of that stuff that we said isn't is kind of
Yeah.
I kind of missed my bleeding edge, but like I had it posted. One good thing is though, I did have it posted for like barely any time, but it still got an upvote. And then I said like, I floated. I was so proud of the thing too. I said like, looking for something to put on while in the background while you sort through bulk. How about listening to four nerds discuss everything Tarkier? And then
Yeah.
that led in from there. I was like, oh man, that's such a good tease. And then they shut it down so fast, and it was like, no, you can't say two things
Yeah. That does kind of suck.
because the
Uh,
Magic TCG one's the big one, and that's the one that got us like the all the eyes on the commercial and boosted it. And then last Thursday is whenever I did floated the one thing. It's like, yeah, we're gonna chill you for a week. And I was like, no.
yeah, I think today we're going to discuss a couple of decks that we've been building. Um, so it's just you and me for now. We might get joined later by some people, but who knows? Um, so yeah, I've got your page pulled up. So you've got total and otter chaos. Let's break it down.
Yes. Yeah. So. Uh, ultimately, my goal with this deck was to build an Alania, the Divergent Storm, and build it a little. It's like only using creatures that can be found, creature types found in Bloomborough, so it's a little tool down. It doesn't have the best spell slinger card possible in every situation. Uh, it would pro if I'm being honest with myself, it'd probably be better if I just took the Stella Leprechaun and just chucked her aside and threw Alania as a commander and just called it a day. But we like to have fun around here, so
It's too easy that way, huh?
absolutely. So,
Ugh.
uh, but there, I do really enjoy this deck. This is probably one of my favorite decks that I've built recently. It's the spell slinging fun with the win con often just be making a crap ton of otter tokens. So, and it can really kind of explode out of nowhere. So it's a type of deck I like to play. It's just choose a type of creature, build around that type of creature, and take it from there.
Nice.
Uh, so how, let's just do, I think before we necessarily dive into uh, the weeds of our decks, if
Mhm.
you were building a deck, uh, like what sort of ratios of cards are you building? Like where do you start? Like where's the foundation for you?
There are some decks where I feel like you start off with, like, if the commander is more creature based, that's where you start off with. Or if, say, like in your deck, you've got Balmor, Balmor Battle Mage Captain. Um, Balmor says, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain trample until end of turn. So, like when you're building him, you want to kind of look up instants and sorceries. So, like, kind of start off there and see what you can do.
Yeah, I think personally, my rule of thumb is I start with my commander, then I find 33 creatures that I like, and then I find 33 non-creatures that I like, make 10 of the non-creature spells artifacts, and then have 33 lands. So that's the general blueprint. And then I adjust from there. Whenever I bring up, I wanted to bring Alania in here because it pushed me out of strictly creature-based comfort zone because I only have 14 creatures in the deck, but I have, let's see, 15 sorceries and 21 instants, so it's very much a spell slinging deck, but the creatures in there are so impactful. I could have any of them on in my hand and be happy to see them. And with Alania's ability, the first otter I play each turn, I can copy it. I just need to let an opponent draw a card. I usually just let who's ever most behind on lands or something like that draw a card, and now I have duplicates of the value engine. So if my deck's doing what it's supposed to be doing, then it's not even, I don't feel like I'm limited in my creatures because I'm have the value engine in the command zone bolstering my creature base.
I like that most of the creatures in here, it's called Total and Otter Chaos. Again, a lot of them are all otters, so it's kind of fun when you are able to make something that solid with a lot of creatures that are the same. Like I'm building another deck right now that's using worms, um, but for a different reason, but it's not as many worms as you have otters in here. So, are there any are there any cards in here that are like no matter what deck you're making, they go in almost every deck?
Yes, actually. Uh I have a handful of pocket favorite cards, and if you in the artifacts, Giant's Amulet, I feel like I stick it in almost every blue commander deck because most of the time my blue commanders aren't going to be the ones getting turned sideways. So it when it enters, you can pay 3 and a blue to make a 4/4 blue giant wizard. But I've literally never paid that in this deck. It's here because equipped creature gets +0/+1 and hexproof as long as it's untapped. I feel like this is a low to the ground hexproof option, and I don't think a lot of people might not be running it because they see as long as the creature is untapped, it's going to be vulnerable if it's tapped. But like really examine your commander and be like, is this a piece that I am going to be sending into combat? Is that even going to be an issue? I have literally I've been playing I've played a few games with Alania. I've literally never killed someone with Alania commander damage. That has never been the win condition. So yeah, she's not attacking much, so just bolster her up. So that's like a little pocket favorite card that I put in any commander deck that has blue. That it's. How about you? Are there any like pocket cards that you just find yourself just throwing into every deck that you can?
Yeah, so mine are kind of ones that people probably already think about a lot, but I have a setup where I have a bin that is full of, like, in my mind, commander staple cards, and a lot of them are artifacts. So Like I really like Lightning Greaves, giving haste and shroud to your commander or any other creature that you really want to get through there. Makes sense to me. And then this one's gonna be one that might upset some people. But I have Soul Ring in my deck. I know a lot of people are starting to go against Soul Ring, and it doesn't make sense to me. Uh, but I mean, 2 mana for one is kind of, you know, it just makes sense. And then another one that I've got on here is Swiftfoot Boots. So being able to again give like hexproof haste, like some kind of protection, some kind of way of getting that creature out there and letting them uh, move around. I'm a big fan of. Um, let's see if there's any other ones in here that. Oh, white card that I'm a big fan of. Anytime I'm playing white, Swords to Plowshares. I think that's always a good one to have in there. Um, and it doesn't. I mean, you could even do it to yourself if you wanted to. Like if you really need to gain life and you have a giant creature and you're like, well, I can get that creature back. You could literally exile your own creature and get life equal to its power. Like that's I know a lot of people don't think of it that way, but that's another way to think of something like that. And then two other ones are almost in every red deck that I make, or if there's red splashed in there and I feel like there's a reason to have these cards in there, they go in there. The first one's Blasphemous Act. It's a really nice board wipe, kind of a reset in case somebody's popping off or the whole table is kind of getting crazy and you feel like you can't catch up to it. So, and then the second one is another sorcery, which is Vandal Blast. And, for one, you can destroy target artifact you don't control, or you can overload it for 4 and a red. So it's an easy way to get rid of, like, if somebody's playing a whole artifact based deck, or if somebody's got a lot of treasures and you want to get rid of them, or, if somebody's kind of just building and building and building, and again, you want to get rid of some stuff, uh, it's a good one to have in there. It's not one that you want to have all the time, but it's something nice to have in your pocket to where, you can really think about it. And if the board needs a reset, you can reset it that way.
So, how many panic buttons do you typically run in a deck?
Um, it's usually when it comes to doing that reset, if I'm really far behind, it's nice to have at least two or three in the deck. Looking at this deck right now, I think it might have four in it. But and like we've talked about with threat assessment, it doesn't mean that all four of them are going to get used. But it's nice to have in case you need them. What about you? How how many do you have? And I know it's all color based too, because some colors can't do it as well as others. But
Well, I think whenever it comes to your options, like my Otter deck, it runs blue options for this. I believe there's two get out of jail cards. One of them is the Season of Weaving. You can return each non-land, non-token permanent to its owner's hand as a mode of that card. It's a one of the cute Bloomborough sorceries, 4 and 2 blue, where you choose 5 little paws worth of mode. 1 paw can draw you a card. 2 paws can you choose an artifact or creature and create a token copy of it. And then the 3 paws is return each non-land, non-token permanent to its owner's hand. With the Bloomborough set, the has the offspring mechanic. So with my otters, a lot of the time they are coming in with like tokens of baby themselves, and then also Alania allowing me to make tokens of them. It can actually kind of be almost like a one-sided board wipe or and function in that way. I think looking at your deck type, and if you can manipulate a way to turn a board wipe from affecting everyone to you being able to come out advantageous from the board wipe, you can you should do it. So, one that comes to mind, uh, depending on your deck, a lot of people might not be aware that mass calcify is a thing where you destroy each non-white creature. If you're in a mono white deck, or even if you're just in a two-color deck with white in it, you're there are some opponents that will have no benefit, and you're guaranteed to have some benefit. So just choosing the board wipe for the deck, I feel like is very important.
Yeah, and there's another way of, you know, using different cards that kind of flash you out of the table, um, like making sure you have that kind of stuff in your deck too, and just making sure that you can kind of be safe if a board wipe happens too is always a good idea. Um, yeah.
Like like you'd say probably like Teferi's Protection or Heroic Intervention. Those are some of the staples where they are uh, instant speed answers to get your field out of jail.
Yeah, and then there's even some creatures that kind of, instead of wiping out everything or taking a whole bunch of damage, there's some creatures like Spore Frog that you can use to kind of fog bank the table too. That's not the same as getting rid of, a whole full on board wipe, but there's little creatures that can help you out too. So it's always good to kind of find those panic buttons, figure out what color you're building, find out what kind of panic buttons you can have, and then finding a good number of them without making it all that. Because unless you're making a panic button deck, and that's the whole theme of your deck is just hitting that panic button or reset button. But I don't think a lot of people are going to want to play with that deck a lot.
Well, I mean, there's going to be your Avacyn, oh, all my stuff's indestructible board wipe deck. So there are evil people out there who absolutely have had that deck constructed and use it willingly on other human beings.
Oh yeah, 100%. Those are fun people. So how do you know how many lands to put in your deck? I feel like
So
that's something that I'm always working on.
I default to about, I figure if I have, so I run it pretty fast and loose because I know a lot of people swear by you have to have 40 lands. Most of the time, I can get away with 33 lands. I'll support them with some rocks, uh, but yeah, I can. If you have 33 lands, then that means every third card is, in theory, going to be a land, and that can. So you draw 7 cards. You can, if the averages actually average, which Lord knows they don't always do, but you should wind up with like 2 or 3 lands in your hand, which is especially like drawing into the eighth. So you can be in typically a pretty safe spot with that. Also, if like with my otters deck, I am in blue red. I have blue. I have blue for draw effects. I have red. I have some rummaging effects. So I can kind of hustle to mana if I absolutely need to. Uh, yeah. How about you? What's your system looking like?
So for the longest time, I was one of those 40 land people that you were talking about. Um, but I've slowly kind of started figuring out like, hey, if I've got, a couple of rocks like you were saying, and a couple of cards that let me search for lands in case I get in that spot where I need lands, I really don't need to have 40 lands. So for this deck that I'm breaking down, I've got 34 lands, and then I've got, um, let me turn on my tags real quick. Um, I've got two or three different cards that let me either search for lands or tap for a land of any color. Um, so that kind of helps out. Like since this is a Wooburg deck, um, or white, blue, black, red, green. In case people don't know, um, it's nice to be able to have something that can tap for one of each color in case you are low on, you know, one of those colors.
So I think like looking at the color balancing and stuff, I think it might my deck is pretty self-explanatory. Is it otters? Otters that benefit from instants and sorceries and you pop up. Yours is not so apparent. I think it might at this stage it might be helpful to describe what you build and what your goal is.
Yeah, so this one's a fun little deck that I came up with when Deadpool came out. I think it was either a year or two ago. I tried to make an Avengers deck where it was before like Iron Man, Storm, all those secret layers came out. So I was trying to come up with different creatures that, um, in my mind, fit different Marvel characters. Um, and I just couldn't do it. I mean, I could have. I didn't like how it was working out. Like I had Kenrith as my commander. I had, um, man, who did I have? I think I can't remember. But I had a couple of creatures that I felt fit the bill, but it just didn't feel right. So when Deadpool came out, I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna try and find the Iron Man, Storm, and Wolverine uh, secret layers, and I got lucky and found them. So I was like, you know what? I There's the show What If, uh, where the Watcher is telling different stories, different alternate universes, where Marvel characters go and take part in different things. Um, and so I thought Tom Bombadil fit the bill, and that was kind of hard to say. Uh,
I dug it. Like you're just freestyling there, a little spoken word.
yeah, exactly. So to fit in with him telling stories. So for people that don't know, Tom Bombadil is a bard from Lord of the Rings. And as long as there are four or more lore counters among sagas you control, Tom Bombadil has hexproof and indestructible. Whenever the final chapter ability of a saga you control resolves, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a saga card. Put that card into the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. This ability triggers only once each turn. So, what I'm trying to do is get out different Marvel characters or characters that kind of, in my mind, still represent different Marvel characters. And I kind of did a little bit of a breakdown on who they represent in our group, and I can post that somewhere if somebody wants to see it. But it's mostly based around different sagas. So it's Tom Bombadil telling these stories and trying to get creatures that kind of take advantage of the stories that he's telling that are on the field. So it's kind of an enchantment heavy deck. I have 14 enchantments. That's usually, I don't run that many enchantments. But in this one, it kind of, that's what you need. So I've got a couple of different land destruction ones. I have ones that kind of make sure that I can move counters from one saga to another one to try and cheat my commander or cheat different creatures and get them things that I need out of the saga. And then I have ways of getting my sagas out of the graveyard back into the library or out of the graveyard onto the battlefield. It's it's a deck that I'm really going to have to pay attention to, and that's another reason why I wanted to do it. Um, I think I have a hard time paying attention to games if they go for a long amount of time. So playing one where I have to keep an eye on what's going on and make sure that my counters are going where they need to go, is another reason why I built something like this. And I just haven't seen it on a table yet, so I wanted to play it, see how everybody likes it.
So I feel like this deck, if you like look at brackets and you look at the first bracket where it's like a almost like an exhibit deck where you're like it's like you've crafted a story with your deck. You've chosen cards not because of their power level, but because of how they fit into the narrative of the story that you're building around. And I think that's really cool. I think that's an option that in deck building, a lot of people don't really know is an option. And also, I think it is nice with the bracket system to be like, hey, I have a what if deck based around the Marvel universe, and it's Wooburg just as you described, uh, and so then I could bring. Uh, I haven't put this on Moxfield, but I have a rock collector's deck where like it's all about like creatures who want to go collect rocks or make rocks in any one shape or form. So I feel like it's nice that they have a place at the table.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of it's kind of nice looking at the brackets and being able to um see how your deck kind of fits into it. Um, so I think it'd be a good idea for us to break down the bracket system. What do you think if we kind of just went through it real quick so everybody kind of knows?
Yeah, for sure. Do we want to, what sounds more cute, going back and forth like bracket by bracket, like, oh, I get one, you get two, or yeah, let's do that, you know?
Yeah,
I
let's
feel
do
like that.
that. You go
Okay.
ahead. You do number one.
So the first level bracket is Exhibition. Your ultra casual commander deck. No mass land denial, so no blowing up all the lands or no winter orbs where lands are untapping. Uh, no extra turns, so no spells or creatures that or abilities that grant you extra turns. No two card infinite combos. Uh, no, no game changers. There's a game changers list that uh, has cards that are deemed powerful or game disrupting and are thus in a game changers bracket, and they're identified as game changers. And a few tutors, so you can't just uh, dig through your deck and put Exodia into your hand.
Okay.
But the exhibit and like the bracket system is more, I guess, of a vibe. And so exhibition is uh it is not necessarily just type, it is theme. It's like building around a theme is probably the best way I've heard it put. So like Nathan's deck is an excellent example of that because he's like built a story around it and it's there's a theme to it. So it's like, hey, I did this really cool thing with magic cards. Check it out.
Yeah. So bracket two is the core bracket. So it's the average current pre-con deck, uh, which are the commander decks that you can go out to the store and buy, which some of them are way more powerful than the others. Um, but anyway, uh, so no mass land denial. So um, no chaining extra turns. So you can have a card that gives extra turns, but you can't keep doing it over and over and over and over and over again. Um, Still no two card infinite combos, no game changers, and that tutors you can still use a handful of tutors.
Yeah, so I the core is like designed to be essentially what most precons are at. So it is a tuned deck uh, but it's not it's built within that. You can absolute within those like those restrictions, you can absolutely build a brutal pub stomping deck. You could build like an artifact storm still and within those perimeters, but the you want to look for the general vibe of the deck. So this is still pretty casual. This is like on power level with a precon essentially. And so the difference between like the one and the two is like where the one is the exhibition showing off a neat thing that you did, like pretty much you've painted a picture in some way, shape, or form with magic cards, whereas core is the pre-con, and you it is pretty tooled and streamlined. It has direction, uh, but it doesn't chain combos or like it doesn't chain the turns like mentioned, and it's not going to be comboing off turn three most of the time.
Right. Speaking of turn three, let's go to bracket three.
Don't mind if I do. This is upgraded beyond the strength of an average precon deck. Still, you still have no mass lane denial, so keep those winter orbs at home. Uh, and no chaining extra turns still. You're still allowed uh, extra turn spells. You just cannot chain them together. And late you're allowed to have late game two card infinite combos. So you can have like your Sanguine Bond, Exquisite Blood. That's probably the first example that comes off my head where if you were to gain life, your opponent lose life, and if your opponent lose life, you gain life. Those are both like 5-drop enchantments, so that's gonna be towards the back of the game. So those are fair play and three. And then you're allotted game changers, so three cards from that changers list. So this deck is going to be pretty potent. It's going to be stronger than a pre-con. You've had it pretty well tooled. You've put quite a bit of upgrades into it at this point where like but the thing is it could still you could still probably a two could still probably hang with it. So that's the kind of the cool thing about this bracket is like if you just walk into uh a LGS and there's like new people playing, most of their stuff is probably going to fall between a two and a three, and so you can sit them together and they can probably play together and have a good time still, uh, even if some of the people are fielding twos and some of the people are fielding threes. So, but that's generally the difference of the three is that a lot more work has gone into it, and there are some known powerful cards in it.
Yeah, and I think the difference between like just going and playing for fun and playing at a tournament is anybody's deck can hang with anybody's deck. I think if somebody's going out and trying to like smash people, I think you're probably not going and just chilling and playing with that kind of deck. I would hope, unless you're just tooling it with your friends to see how well it does. So it's kind of nice to have those decks that can all hang out with each other. And then looking at Moxfield, what's cool is you can kind of go over like under the name of your deck, you can see the bracket system. So my bracket is falls under the level 3 upgraded. So it says these decks are souped up and ready to play beyond the strength of an average precon. And then it's got like that little checklist, which is kind of cool because so up to 3 game changers. I have one, which is um, Storm's Will, which is Jessica's Will. No mass land denial, and that's still got a check mark. So if I had mass land denial in there, there'd be an X, and it would tell me that I need to go up to bracket 4, or yeah, bracket 4. Um, and then up to 3 extra turn cards. So that takes care of where it says Um, no chaining extra turns. Apparently, three is the number. So after three, once you hit four, that's too much. Um, and then you have the any amount of tutors. I've got four in this deck. So Idyllic Tutor, Search for Glory, Iron Man is a tutor, and then Inventor's Fair is another one. And then no two card combos. That one is kind of hard for Moxfield to keep track of right now, just because of there are known two card combos, but some people, even I've built decks with two card combos in them, and then I forget what the combos are. Um, so that one's kind of on you to make sure, like, hey, if my deck has a two card combo in it, I let people know, or I at least know to make my deck a certain level bracket if it's one that's going to pop off early or if it's one that's going to pop off late, like you were saying with Sanguine Bond and Exquisite Blood.
Mhm. Yeah. Do you want to go ahead and take us into four?
Yeah. So, um, four is optimized. So we go from upgraded to optimized. Um, High power, and it says it's time to go wild. No restrictions other than the banned list. So that's it. It's on you, and you just go ham. So, whatever you can kind of come up with, whatever power you want to be with, however quickly you want to try and win, you can do that. Um, sort of. Uh, so go ahead and go into five because four and five are so close together that it's kind of hard to
So,
just do one at a time.
so five is the highest power with a very competitive and metagame focused mindset. There are also no restrictions. The big difference between the five and four is five is CEDH, and that means it's like you're playing one of the like top 10 known most powerful EDH decks, like the most consistent quick win decks. Like you guys are racing to combo off, and these games are probably going to be like resolved in like 3 turns or something like that. It's uh, pretty brutal. So these are you are in those. You're playing like one of the 10 top decks. That's just so, and also with that field, everyone kind of knows who's playing what in some capacity that way. If you're in that scene, you kind of know what decks are strong to what, and uh, in those. So I imagine I don't play CDH, but I imagine there's a little bit of a rock paper scissors thing going on where like this hyper competitive deck bear might outpace this hyper competitive deck in these situations, and then this hyper competitive deck then can do this, and then if you put those four in a pod, and then you see who goes nuclear first.
Yeah, I would. I think it'd be crazy to see a CEDH competition with like four players in the pod. I've only seen like CEDH pop off like one on one. So like four player would be nuts because it's hard to keep track. Like if that's not something that you do, it is hard to keep track of what's going on because it happens so quickly. And it's like that in any kind of competitive format in Magic, but like it's nuts to see. Have you seen four player CEDH?
Uh, I have accidentally joined well, it wasn't an accident. I was just on spell table and I jumped in and they were playing I think this was before the bracket system. They said they were playing CEDH and I was like, "Hey, I don't have a CEDH deck, but can I play anyway?" And they were like, "Yeah, sure." So I jumped in with probably like a healthy level 3, I got it tooled up a little bit. I got my little bells and whistles in there and I got obliterated. It was a uh man, I think it uh is probably like a Urza Storm or something, or rather. I don't even know. I don't even remember. I wasn't there long enough to remember.
How quick was the game over for like how quick was there a winner out of the pot or did you stick around for the whole game?
So it was won by like turn. I think they had actually had a clunky start, and it was still like resolved like turn 6. Like just everything's done.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's funny because like most of the games that we play turn six is where people are just like starting to get moving. I feel like sometimes there's faster than that, but I feel like usually it's like we kind of let everybody build up and then go from there.
Yeah. So then, yeah, so th those are the brackets, and I think those can, especially like going into an environment like an LGS where you're like playing with people for the first time, it is a great starting point. I think they did a really good job of having a consistent way of introducing like your power level to strangers. And of course, you can't always rule out the bad actors who have like worked within those parameters to do like a nasty deck that's going to pub stomp. You can't rule all that out, but with or people just straight up lying. Uh, but I mean, within these parameters, I feel like most people sitting down, they're probably going to be bringing a two or a three, and then I think those can play nicely together. So it's going to lead to some good games with strangers.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool that it's caught on at a lot of LGSs. Because when I've walked in and ready to play, people are like, "Hey, what are you playing?" "Oh, I'm playing a two or I'm playing a three," and then you can just, I bring about two or three decks with me when I go different places because I usually bring one that I know works at least a little bit, and then a brand new one that I want to just try out and see if it's got any legs. Um, and so it's nice to be able to be like, oh, okay, you're playing a three, so I've got this three. Or, let people say what their bracket is and kind of get a feel for why it's in that bracket if you want to. And then just try and have a fun game where everybody's got a chance or everybody's going to have fun. I think it's a lot better than having to name off every single card that's in your deck. Makes
Yeah,
it a lot easier.
because like the joke is like prior to this, everyone's deck was a seven because everyone assumed like a precom's five. I've added a little bit to it, but it's not CEDH, so it's probably a seven.
Yeah.
So it kind of it kind of gives us a more nominal range, which is very nice.
Let's go ahead and start breaking down our decks. And again, you can find these deck lists in the episode description. So if you're interested in seeing what we built and kind of want to see how we built it, or you're like, oh, I'd like to make an otter deck, or, that sounds interesting, you can always go and find our decks and then, see the other decks that we've built, and maybe they'll get you interested in building something like that. So, Josh, let's go ahead and break down Otter Chaos.
Okay.
Was there anything that made you want to build with this commander before you decided to pick her, or was it kind of like a just kind of one that sparked your interest?
Well, whenever I got a box of Bloomborough, and my wife and I were like going through the cards, and we were like, we definitely these are adorable. Like they're everything in there was so cute. There's like my brain was like dumping all the oxytocin. I think I was lactating. It was uh, but but yeah, I thought the otters were super cute, and then uh, I got Alania, and then I read her, and I thought being able to like copy those cute little otters would be a fun thing to build around, and I just kind of started building from there. So after I did a little bit of looking into things, and I had a fundamental misunderstanding of Alania, which I think a lot of people might have whenever they are going to build her. Uh, what she does, she's a three, a blue and a red. Whenever you cast a spell, if it's the first instant spell, the first sorcery spell, or the first otter spell other than Alania you've cast this turn, you may have target opponent draw a card. If you do, copy that spell, and you can choose new targets for the copy. So it's not just the first instant, just the first sorcery, or just the first otter, you can do all three of those on the same turn. So you can double an instant, double a sorcery, double an otter. So it is quite the value engine. So once you have that understanding, you can then start to figure out how to maximize your value around this commander. And that's exactly what I started to do. So I'm going to go ahead and dive into it. So in the Planeswalker, there's only one, and it's Ral the Crackling Wit. It is a whenever he has a non-creature spell, you put a loyalty counter on Ral, and then the +1, you create an otter with prowess. -3, draw a card, discard two. -10, you draw three cards, and you get an emblem. Instant sorcery spells you cast have Storm. That is just absolutely ridiculous. Storm means like you get to copy it for every instant or sorcery that or actually, sorry, for every spell that you've cast before it. So that's just kind of insane value, and he's an otter, so that's why he's there. Um,
Yeah, it's kind of fun seeing the different characters from Magic that got turned into little animals for this set. It's kind of cool.
yeah, that's such a fun little twist to see, like everyone's favorite planeswalkers just all turned into little woodland critters. Creature wise, these are I generally I shoved in almost every otter from the Bloomborough set because I wanted to keep it pretty true to form as a otter type deck, and then any creature that is not an otter is a creature type that is found in Bloomborough. The one creature that sticks out like a sore thumb, which still kind of fits within the arbitrary restrictions I put on myself, was Balmor the Battle Mage Captain, flying, and whenever you cast an instant sorcery spell, creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain trample until end of turn. Uh, Most of the otters, unless you have, uh,
Every other creature in your deck is an otter.
yeah, and
Yeah.
then Uh, it needed a little more push to get damage through sometimes because a lot of these creatures don't have evasion on their own. So having the ability to get it big and trample over is just very valuable. So that's why I had to break it a little bit, but I did. I do stand by putting Balmore there. It is a bird. There are birds in Bloomborough, so I did not break the little village in my mind.
Oh, I think it's perfect. So,
Yeah. So going into it, like you have like Bria the Riptide Rogue. This is probably another popular like otter commander, probably the uh because it has prowess and it gives other creatures you control prowess, which is really powerful. And then whenever you cast a non-creature spell, target creature you control can't be blocked this turn. So that's like a good way to get damage in. Um,
that's your
but
highest money card in your deck too. Did you know that?
holy, is that just that version? Or oh my goodness, I didn't realize.
Yeah, that's a $23 card if it's in foil. That's another thing that I like about Moxfield is if you want to, and I do this with all my decks, I go through and like make sure each card that's in my deck is the actual version of the card that I have, just so you can kind of see like, you know, is this a deck that I want to make sure to double sleeve, or is it one that, I can just shuffle without any sleeves on, which I would never do that, but you know.
Yeah, I had no idea that Bria popped off like that. That's wild. In my head, I thought I was like, yeah, it's like a $4 card maybe.
Yeah.
Holy crap. I have to look to see if I have more of them. Um,
Yeah, no kidding.
but yeah, for generally all the cards in this deck, they all benefit from spell slinging for the most part. Like uh Corus I don't know how you pronounce that. I'm gonna say Coruscation Mage. Hope that's correct. It is for one in a red otter 2/2 with Offspring. Offspring is a really cool mechanic in Bloomborough where you can pay two uh, to have. the a 1/1 token copy of that creature enter. And with Alania, whenever you cast a spell with a offspring, if you pay for the offspring, you get to copy the entirety of the spell. So you will get four Coruscation mages essentially. I mean, two of them are babies, but still. And this card is pretty brutal in here because whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this creature deals one damage to each opponent. So if I have Alania out here and I'm able to cast it with my commander on the board and I pay the offspring, I can have up to four of those. So then every non-creature spell I'm casting is doing four damage to each opponent, which is pretty disgusting. And so essentially I'm just gonna go through and look at some highlights. Fun one is Frolicking Familiar. It is a creature with adventure, it is an otter wizard. It can be an instant, blow off some steam, deals one damage to any target, or then he goes on an adventure, then which means that it goes into exile, then you can cast it the other side from exile, and then it has flying. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, Frolicking Familiar gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Uh, just I guess they didn't want to just give it prowess. They stuck it to instants and sorceries and wouldn't let it benefit from artifacts and stuff. But that was their choice. It still works well enough in here.
Yeah,
And
and
the flying,
Bria gives it prowess anyways. So
yeah, uh, and just kind of scrolling through here, uh, trying to think of. Oh, one that is absolutely really gross is the Storm Splitter, an
mm.
Otter Wizard, haste, uh, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a token that's a copy of Storm Splitter, exile the token at the beginning of the next end step. So this is you can absolutely flood the board super quick with this card because you're casting a bunch of spells with Bria. And then this is also applies to whenever you cast on your opponent's turns too. So you can just kind of generate a bunch of blockers out of nowhere too, which sometimes catches them off guard because they might just think of it as an offensive piece. But next thing you know, oops, flood the board, and now I'm not as defenseless as they thought I was.
Yeah, and
But
I really like the flavor text at the bottom. We'll cover more ground if I split up.
that's beautiful. Uh, and I think essentially all of the pieces in here, you can look at it on Mox Field. They're all like otters that benefit from slinging spells. One more that I want to highlight is the uh, Thunder Trap Trainer. Try to say that three times fast. It is, believe it or not, also an otter wizard. One in a blue with offspring four. But when this creature enters, you look at the top four cards of your library. You can reveal a non-creature, non-land card from among them. Put it into your hand, and then put the rest of the bomb in a random order. If you get this, pay the offspring cost and uh, get this with a copy with Alania out, you get to look through 16 cards of your deck and choose your four favorites essentially. And that has been, you pretty much can build what you need to win from there. So it is a very important piece. And definitely when you're building Alania, definitely make sure whenever you're thinking about which otters to add, which ones to cut, uh, Thunder Trap Trainer has definitely set me up for success. So highly recommend it. Now, diving into the sorceries for Alanya is a value commander, so uh, you're typically going to be getting two of whatever you play. So you can actually choose some less than efficient cards that become very efficient if you cast them twice. One of my favorite uh, examples of this is the Traitorous Greed card. It is for three and a red. Uh, you get to gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap that creature. It gains haste until end of turn, and you add 2 mana of any one color. So, at the on its face, it's like a slightly overcosted act of treason, which would be like two and a red to gain control of the creature until end of turn. Uh, but you get two of it back, so it's like almost like a discount. With Alania, you get two copies of that. You are stealing two creatures, and you get 4 mana back, so it was a free spell, essentially. And you can use that mana to cast like a two otters or two instants. So it takes Alania takes this card, which is less than a slightly inefficient act of treason, and turns it into a very valuable piece, which is essentially free. So just cheating value. Also, cards that I use a lot in here are cards which have uh, draw spells that uh, because all your draw spells are going to be doubled, so you can find some of the uh, chunkier draw spells like Mind Spring, where it's X and two blue. You draw X cards. With Alania for an X spells, if you copy whatever X is, so if you can pump even like early game, if you are only able to put two into it, so you cast four into Mind Spring, where you would traditionally draw X cards, you're uh, drawing four cards, so it's like 1 mana per card, which is insane value. And the last two things I'm going to talk about on the sorcery side of things are some of my win conditions. The one that works for me probably the most is Kindred Charge. Choose a creature type. Here's the secret. It's going to be Otter. And for each for each creature you control of the chosen type, creature you create a creature token that's a copy of that creature. Those creatures gain haste. Exile them at the beginning of the next end step. So you already have a board full of otters. You get to make a copy of all of them. And with Alanya, you automatically are just gonna get another copy of the already copied ones. So it goes exponential. And spoiler alert, this deck has more ways to copy spells. So this can turn a fairly quaint board into quite the problem before your opponents can really say much about it, which is delightful.
Yeah, just think about Storm Splitter popping off and having a crap ton of copies of himself, and then you play that Kindred Charge, and then you just that's just disgusting. Absolutely gross.
Yeah, man, this deck is so fun. I'm gonna Most of the deck is instants, and you have your
Wait, wait,
uh
wait. Before you go to instance, let's talk about one more sorcery in there that I'm looking through your, you just didn't want to mention that you have full throttle as one of your sorceries in your deck.
oh, that little thing.
That's,
Full throttle is a 4 and 2 red sorcery. After this main phase, there are two additional combat phases, and at the beginning of each combat, this turn, untap all creatures that attack this turn. So with Alania, that turns into four additional combat phases. You have three opponents typically in Commander, so you can probably figure out how to polish them off in four combats. Um, the fun thing is, if you this feels a little disingenuous, but if you like look at the Mox field and kind of hover what bracket this puts it in, that's not an extra turn spell. It's just extra combat spells. The bracket system does not care about extra combats right now. So this nastiness is still technically brought to you by the power of bracket 2. Let's
yeah,
go.
it even says, like when you click on bracket info, it says the owner has not specified a bracket. For search purposes only, this bracket is being treated as bracket two core.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is built like a 2. It's gonna run like a 3. Uh,
And you
per-
have four combat phases, so you can take out everyone at the table and yourself for the last combat phase if you wanted to.
yes, utter chaos.
All
Okay,
right, let's go to instance.
okay. So into instance, you have your run-of-the-mill, like if you're in blue, you should be running some counter spells, but whenever you're running a value commander where you might be able to copy your counter spells, look at interactions that benefit your deck that might not benefit other decks. So a really fun one with this deck is Arcane Denial. It is a counter spell where it's one in a blue, you counter target spell, its controller may draw up to two cards at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep, and then you draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. So if you are struggling for card draw, you can float out a cheap spell, and then you can go to, or you can like float out a spell. You can go to counter your spell, and then you copy your counter spell with Alania to counter the counter spell. And because you countered your own counter spell on the next turn's upkeep, you are drawing three cards for two mana. And all it took you was a empty room and a chalkboard and some red string, but you're drawing three cards. Gosh, dang it. Uh, then uh, looking, but yeah, just offer you can't refuse is another strong counter spell. Counter target non-creature spells that opponent your controller makes two treasure tokens. So anytime you can counter something for a single mana, the if there's any sort of side effect to the card, it's typically worth it. But yeah, but off of the boring counters and into the spicy stuff. Let's go. We have ourselves a uh, Arcane Epiphany, so it's just at instant speed. It costs one spell, one less if you control a wizard. Alania is a wizard. Most of the otters are wizards, so you're never going to be paying five. So for four, you are going to be drawing six cards at instant speed, which is quite fun. Uh, and there are some copy effects that we like to use in this deck, like cackling counterpart. For one and two blue, you create a token that's a copy of target creature you control. So you get to enjoy some more of those otter effects. And then it's an instant, so you're also going to get the value off of that. And then it also has flashback. So if for five and two blue, so down the road, if you need to do that again or rebuild your board state after a board wipe or something like that, doesn't it's still on the table, still a good option. Um, this is a fun value piece. Coin flick in this deck is two in a red. It deals one damage to any target, and you create a treasure token. If you're doubling this with Alanya, you do two damage, and you get two treasure tokens. So you get to bank two mana for something crazier for three mana. So it's like you're getting a lot of value. Just when you're like building this deck, you look at cards that uh, give value when they're like doubled. Like if they that becomes absurd. Like two treasure tokens for three, that's pretty nice. You're really setting yourself up well for a later turn. Um, Another thing I wanted to point out from this deck when I was building it, your interaction with other people's creatures. Having answers at instant speed that you get to double is really powerful.
Yeah, one
So
one big one that I've been looking at is run away together. I think that's pretty crazy.
you read my mind because that's the one I'm literally hovered over right now. Because so you go from choosing two creatures uh, controlled by different players and returning them to their owner's hand to choosing four creatures. So it's like two instances of choosing two creatures. So you get to uh, put four creatures back in the hand for two mana. Uh, and also, it's really fun against token decks because they're not getting those back. They've run away for together forever that way.
Yeah, that's like such a cheap little mini board wipe right there. Like for two, you can get rid of four creatures. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and then you'll see there's a lot of instances of that too. I also have Into the Flood Maw, where you can return a creature to its owner's hand. If you gift a card, it can be a permanent instead. So that can, for at most two and a couple of fishes, you get to just take two of the your most hated permanents off the board. So so yeah, one mana, two fishes, two fish. You call it a day. So yeah, those bounce effects are absolutely disgusting in this deck, and they are great answers. And most of them hover around like one or two mana, so they are uh, great ways to have like instant speed interactions with people who try to put cards sideways at you. Um, so also another thing I wanted to call out is the cards from the Dungeons and Dragons block. They're a lot of like fun like dual modal cards, like the instant come to a river. You can fight the current, return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand, or find a crossing. Target creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn and can't be blocked this turn. So that can be a good way to get the last little bit of damage in, or take away a threat that's coming your way, and you get to double them. So it's very nice. Okay, now I think it's we can dive into some artifacts. Going rock-wise, I have Arcane Signet, I have Is It Signet, I have Thought Vessel, I have Soul Ring, I have Talisman of Creativity. So these I have some good rock support to uh to help cast these big spells and stuff that I build up to, or like chain different spells together. So having at least four rocks in this deck was important. Um, the other artifacts I have, they are Geist Flame Reservoirs. So like whenever I cast an instant or sorcery spell, I put a charge counter on it. I can pay one in a red, remove any number of charge counters from it to deal that much damage to any target, and then I can pay one in a red, exile the top card of my library. I can play it this turn. I'm already spell slinging like crazy, so having like the option to just blast someone out of nowhere with that, or if I'm like desperate for like an option, I can do some impulse draw with it. So uh, it is a nice option for that. Of course, I mentioned earlier, Giant's Amulet goes into every deck I can because Hexproof for one blue and a two equipped. Very efficient Hexproof option. I have Lightning Greaves in here. Haste is nice. Typically, I'm not targeting Alania with any spells, so just protecting my engine piece. Um, this is a spicy one, the Rune Chanter's Pike. It's like a 50-cent card, but I think a lot more people should be running it. Equipped creature has first strike and gets +X/+O, where X is the number of instant and sorcery cards in your graveyard. If you're slinging spells, I really recommend this card. I mean, even if you're not attacking with your commander, having it have first strike and like halfway through the deck game, you've like already cast like 20 spells. You have like a 20 power first strike just to say no to whatever someone wants to put your way. It's just a really cool option to have. And then yeah, then also things to keep in mind with this deck, you're going to be drawing a whole lot. Cards that allow you to have no maximum hand size are nice. So Thought Vessel gives you a no maximum hand size, and it's for two you get to tap for one colorless. So that is nice. We're kind of psych almost to the end here. Gonna take a peek at our enchantments. We have artist artist talent. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, it's an enchantment class, so you can like level it up. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. But here's where it is. you push it to level 3. Non-creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. That's awesome in this deck. And then last, if a source you control would deal non-combat damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, it deals that much damage plus 2. That gets pretty nasty if you look at another enchantment in here, which is Impact Tremors. Whenever a creature you control enters the uh, sorry, whenever a creature you control enters, this enchantment deals 1 damage to each opponent. So Alania is making a crap ton of otters. Those enter the battlefield. Some of the otters make copies of themselves. So if you have artist's talent at level 3, this is doing 3 damage for every ETB, and that if you're making exponential tokens at some point, it just gets really gross really fast, and you've probably already won from there. Double Vision, another value engine. Whenever you cast the first instant or sorcery each turn, copy that spell. You can choose copies for it. This is also nice if someone does manage to get Alania off the board. I still have like a backup value engine, and if she is on the board, I'm just committing tax fraud. I'm just cheating. I'm getting way too much value. I don't deserve this. Everything I cast is going way too nuts. I don't know why they let me do this. It's a wonderful state to be in. Doesn't happen all the time, but if I get there, it's the best. I'm just riding that high for a week.
That's awesome.
And lastly, uh, oh crap! I didn't realize that this card was valuable too. It's uh, sitting around about $6, $6 and 30. But Kindred Discovery, it's 3 and 2 blue.
That's at
Whenever choose a creature.
$12.
Oh wow, yeah. Uh, as it enters, choose a creature type. Whenever a creature you control enters of the chosen type, you draw a card. So this is on ETB, not cast. So you are getting that for all the otter copies. So you can uh, get a lot of value from this. The it's the I would be careful with this deck because if you have your Storm Splitter and certain spells and you're going like exponential with your otters, you can maybe accidentally deck yourself with this. It is possible, so just wield it with caution. The lands, uh, I'm running 13 islands and 14 mountains. I actually have more blue pips, but I some of the more of the utility lands produce blue, so that's why there's the discrepancy between the distribution there. My utility lands, I have the command tower, which of course taps for any color your commander can produce. I have the Village, which is really cute, which is you can pay blue to only cast creature spells, and then the whites for color. I mean, like or tap it for colorless to cast any spell, or but you can pay two blue and tap it Surveil 2, and activate only if you control a bird, frog, otter, or rat. We're always going to be controlling an otter for the most part, and so then that helps you kind of filter the top of your deck with that Surveil. Then I have the oh my goodness, I didn't realize this card shot up so much. I swear I just picked one of these up in regular whenever Neon Dynasty first came out. I got this in a pack. The Otawara Soaring City. Uh, you can channel it to return an artifact, creature, enchantment, or planeswalker to its owner's hand, and it costs less if you control a legendary creature. So this was just like another bounce option. If it is not, it is currently sitting at $26 right now. So if that's not in your option, that is not necessary for this deck. It was just like a nice little utility land I was able to throw into it. But yeah, no, there's plenty of good lands that tap for blue that aren't $25. So the other ones, Rockface Village, another one from Bloomburrow, where it's like the lily pad village, but for red. And then the benefit of this one is you can give a mouse, otter, lizard, raccoon +1/+0 and haste until end of turn. So sometimes having that access to a haste on a land is very nice. Shiv and Wreath to help filter things out, taps for a blue or red. And then Spiral Canal also helps filter things out. Uh, for a blue and a red. And then with that, you have yourself an Alania Divergent Storm deck that is otter heavy, and bloom. All the creatures are within the Bloomborough theme, and you are just looking at getting value for getting essentially two of everything. If you want to make this deck a little more potent, some easy things that you could do would be uh, instants and sorceries that make copies of instants and sorceries. Because if you have an instant or sorcery that makes a copy of an instant or sorcery, and you copy that copy of an instant or sorcery, you can chain those together to have infinite, copy triggers, and so you'd have like an infinite storm track count. So you could do something absolutely disgusting with that. I did not include that in this deck because my play group is a little more casual, and I like to try to keep my friends sometimes.
Yeah. I know you brought up the lands, but um, it's kind of nice when you scroll down, you see that you've got 60% of all symbols are blue, 40% of all symbols are red, but you're evened out. So you have blue mana production at 55%, and you also have red mana production at 55%. Your colorless is at 9. So even though it kind of looks like you might have it hanging more one way than the other, it's actually even. So that's
Yeah.
kind of cool.
Yeah, and I knew that because whenever I built the deck, I stacked up all the lands and stuck out my finger and put them out on there, and it balanced right in the middle, so I knew I was good.
Oh yeah, perfect.
Okay, so I've yapped for a bit. Let's dive into yours next.
We'll be back right after this.
Is there no more excitement in your game room? Are you having a hard time finishing your opponents? Sounds like you need to have a fling in your deck. Fling takes a creature on your board and turns it into intimate targeted damage. Your opponent won't be able to walk right after you rock them with damage equal to the power of your thickest creature. And a fling couldn't be easier. For one in a red, you could just sacrifice your boring old creature and finish the game with spontaneous spice and instant speed. You could even fling your Angelic Enforcer at your opponent so they can taste an angel's kiss of death with infinite damage. You don't even have to wait until your turn to pump your wall of blood and fling it at your opponents to finish them off real nice. So what's stopping you from trying a fling today? Your opponent's life is low, so have a fling in your deck.
I turned my tags on, so I'm kind of going to go through and talk about what different tags I have going on, and then I'll kind of break it down by like creatures, instant sorceries, that kind of thing. So, one of my bigger tags is making sure I have card draw. Um, so we'll just kind of go through. So my first tag is +1/+1 counter. So I've got six of those, and some of these tags might not be numerically accurate. I was kind of doing this for the first time. So um, I've got cards that add abilities. I've got blockers, card draw. Um, this deck likes to deal with the counters on your sagas. So I have a couple of cards that help you cheat the counters and move them around, so you can get the most benefit from whatever you're trying to use. I've got some cycling in there, damage doublers, destruction. That's at 13, so that's kind of a lot. I have a couple of digging cards, a couple of cards that love enchantments, which is nice when you're dealing with sagas. Some enhancing cards, evasion cards, exile playing around with, and then some cards that let me gain control of things, life gain, things like that. Um, so I won't be able to talk about this deck as in depth as Josh was able to talk about his. He's been able to play his a couple times. I haven't been able to play this yet. I'm still waiting for a couple cards to come in. So mostly I'm going to talk about cards that I'm excited to play with. And Josh, feel free to jump in if you see some things that I haven't brought up that you might think are a good idea. Um, so the first creature I want to talk about kind of sticks out like a sore thumb and seems like it might not make sense. But then when you dig into what the deck does, it makes more sense. So that's Archon of Sun's Grace. For 2 and 2 white, it's an Archon with flying lifelink. Pegasus creatures you control have lifelink. This is the only Pegasus that's in this deck. Um, but it has constellation. So whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, create a 2/2 white Pegasus creature token with flying. So um, since it's an enchantment heavy deck, it makes sense to have something like this in here, in my opinion, anyway. Um, so that's one that I like. One of those cards that I'm talking about that kind of lets you cheat when it comes to your sagas is Barbara Wright. Um, so she's a human advisor from Doctor Who that has history teacher on it. So sagas you control have read ahead. So when a saga enters the battlefield, I can choose a different chapter and start with that many lore counters on it. The only downside is the skip chapters don't trigger. But when you're reading ahead, if you want to, like if you have Tom Bombadil on the field and you read ahead to the final chapter, then you can have Tom Bombadil pop off and have another saga come out. You can actually put it at the top of your library, reveal it. But either way, you get to cheat a little bit by having those cards that let you go ahead and read ahead. And then another one that I like is Javi the Allfather. So he's from Assassin's Creed. This is kind of like so using that universes beyond, kind of bringing all like Avengers type creatures together was another little mini theme. So I've got different creatures from different universes beyond sets on here too. So Javi the Allfather, he's kind of expensive, but he has indestructible as long as there are 4 or more historic cards in your graveyard. So that's artifacts, legendaries, sagas, all of those are historic. So this deck is going to make that easy to make him indestructible. And he's a 6/6. So him being a 6/6, being able to throw some, buffers onto him, which I've got a couple of cards in here that give +1/+1 counters. He's a good one that's going to be like taking big meaty swings out of people.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. I just
yeah.
wanted to clarify when you say expensive, he is three and red, green, and white, and not like monetarily expensive. The
Yeah.
Hobby the All Father could be for everyone. He is about like running about 70 cents. So you can
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. I got to be a little bit more breakdown on these. I'm kind of not really saying how much mana they cost since we're going to add the list
blaze
to the
through him.
descriptions, but it's
Yeah.
kind of nice when people are reading or listening. So, um, and then he's got Sage products project. So whenever Javi or another legendary creature you control dies, return target legendary creature card with lesser mana value from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So he's kind of got a lot going for him. And for a card that costs 6 and costs 80 cents, he's one that I could see a lot of people starting to use and kind of bringing him up a little bit more. And then I've got a couple cards in here like the Jukai Naturalist that make enchantment spells cost 1 less. And then another Assassin's Creed card that's nice is Sigurd. He costs 3 mana. Vigilance, Trample, Lifelink. He has Boast. So for one, you can put a lore counter on target saga you control or remove one from it. So you can only do it if he attacked this turn and only once each turn. So it's a way to either kind of cheat and go ahead or like I really liked what that part of that saga did, so I'd like for that to happen again. So I'm going to send the saga back one. And then whenever you put a lore counter on a saga you control, put a +1/+1 counter on up to one other target creature. So he's a nice way to make your sagas pop off again and buff other creatures, or he can buff himself and make himself bigger. Another one that I want to bring up is Goldberry River Daughter. So she costs two. She's a nymph from Lord of the Rings. You can tap her and move a counter of each kind not on Goldberry from another target permanent you control onto her. And then you can pay a blue and tap and move one or more counters from her onto target permanent you control if you do draw a card. So it's kind of nice being able to move those things around and
Yeah,
see what
and
you
then
can do with them.
yeah, and then also the looking at the flavor text, fear nothing, for tonight you are under the roof of Tom Bombadil.
Yep,
So that
exactly. So that was kind of nice. And then I've got Deadpool in here. Uh, he's crazy. Uh, he when he enters, you can exchange his text box with another creature's text box. So if you like what somebody else is playing, they get to keep their card over there, but they have to live with what Deadpool says. So after that, on his text box, it says at the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 3 life, and then you pay 3, sacrifice this creature. Each other player draws a card. Um, Draw me like one of your French cards. So he has a way of being like, you can either keep that creature with Deadpool's text, and I get to play what your creature says it does, or you can sacrifice your creature and then I'll just do it to another creature later. So it's kind of nuts what he does. I've got Iron Man in here. Um, I've got Storm in here, and I've got Wolverine in here. I don't really want to break down every single card and keep people's ears burning for forever, but all three of those are pretty exciting to have in here.
oh, I do want to burn ears for one card before you move on from creatures.
Yeah, go ahead.
The Gin Arcanum Weaver, Mard for Mardu, you get a human wizard who can tap for Mardu and sacrifice an enchantment, return target enchantment card from your graveyard to the battlefield. That's just such a fun way to like cycle through your different sagas at different stages. Like, oh, this section of this one's kind of dead to me right now, so I'm just going to sacrifice it and then bring back one that ETBs and gets to like remove the thing that's trying to kill me. It's just like a really cool value piece for this deck, and I wanted to draw attention to it.
Yeah, it's definitely a fun one, and you're right, just kind of being able to kind of get rid of stuff and bring stuff back. Um, Another one that I'll bring up that kind of does around the same thing is Satsuki the Living Lore. So for green and a white, you bring out this human druid that taps, put a lore counter on each saga you control, activate only as a sorcery. So you can kind of go ahead and have one saga, pop off and get what it does at that stage, and then tap Satsuki and have that next stage happen too. Um, Pretty crazy. And then when Satsuki dies, you get to choose one thing. You can either return target saga or enchantment creature you control to its owner's hand, or you can return target saga card from your graveyard to your hand. So um, you can either grab something out of the trash or grab something off of um, the field and have it reset again, kind of like Gin is doing. Um, so those things working together are pretty nice. And then the other nice one, like if I'm playing your otter deck, the Council of Four. So whenever a player draws their second card during their turn, I also draw a card. And whenever a player casts their second spell during their turn, I create a 2/2 white knight creature token, which is kind of nice.
And
And
that's
that's the
on
Fantastic Four.
yeah, and that's only going to get better with uh flurry cards coming out in Tark here too, where people are incentivized to cast that second spell on turns.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to go ahead and move into the sorceries that I have in this deck. Um, and some of these are sorceries that are basically if um, like Iron Man, Deadpool, Wolverine, Storm. I basically just took the cards that made sense in this deck out of their secret lair and they're just going straight into this deck. So um, I built most of this deck, but a lot of this is if you know what cards come in the secret lair, you can kind of guess what's happening. And some of these cards I might not get because they're the special secret cards. So I might have to do some changes when the packs get here, but we'll see. So, like I said, we've got Blasphemous Act in here, Jessica's Will, Vandal Blast. One that's pretty cool is Brilliant Restoration. It's a expensive card, not monetarily, but mana wise. So it's three colorless and four white. Sorcery where you return all artifact and enchantment cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. So that's why it's expensive. It's letting you do some crazy stuff. And that's not the only card that I have in here that does that. Sorcery wise, the other one is Redress Fate. So for six and two white, it's a miracle card. So you may cast this card for its miracle cost of three colorless and a white. When you draw it, if it's the first card you drew this turn, and that's another one that returns all artifacts and enchantment cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. So two different ways to do that. And then it's kind of nice because you can make sure to have things happen more than once. And then we've got an idyllic tutor. So go ahead and search for an enchantment, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle. And then one of my panic buttons, like we talked about before, is Wrath of God. So if you don't know what that does, it destroys all creatures. They can't be regenerated. So yeah, there's that.
I did want to mention something. Looking at your creatures, uh, most of them have white, so you might get away with running a mass calcify too, and then you get to keep your creatures.
Ooh, that's a good idea. I don't know if I have one of those, but um,
Oh, I have an
I
extra.
might
I'll hook
look.
you up.
Oh, sweet. Thank you. I appreciate it. So were there any sorceries that you wanted to talk about, or are you okay if I go ahead and move to instance?
I think we can go ahead and move to instance here.
Okay, perfect. So, um, I've got 10 instants in here, so not as many as I usually run, but it kind of works out with everything else that I've got going on here. So, we've got Assassin's Trophy that destroys a permanent. It lets after that permanent gets destroyed, it lets the opponent get a basic land card. So they get to put that on the battlefield, shuffle their library. You know, who doesn't want land over their favorite creature? I would love that. Just kidding. Um, Berserk is kind of a fun one. Cast a spell only before the combat damage step. Target creature gains trample and gets plus X plus zero until end of turn, where X is its power. At the beginning of the next end step, destroy that creature if it attacked this turn. So, kind of pump somebody up as a blocker or as an attacker if somebody says that they're not going to block with it, or if they're not going to block it. The only bad thing is you have to destroy that creature after.
Uh,
Go ahead.
I do want to mention, but with like your commander, Tom Bombadil, he's likely going to be indestructible anyway. So that destroy trigger goes on there, and you're like, well, I guess it's indestructible, so I only get benefit.
It's weird how that works. Uh, and then we've got some of the secret layer cards like Deadly Rollick, Galvanic Blast, Lightning Bolt, Aurora Borealis, which is Metamorphase. Add two mana of any color combination and draw a card. Story Weave is one that I like that I found from Kamigawa. So it's a two colorless and a green. Choose one, put two +1/+1 counters on target creature you control. Put two lore counters on target saga you control. The next time one or more enchantment creatures enter the battlefield under your control this turn, each enters with two additional +1/+1 counters. So kind of one that does a little bit of work um, on here. Um, yeah,
Yeah. So now, we get diving into some artifacts next.
I think so. Are you ready?
Yeah, send it.
So, the coolest one that is in here that in my opinion, just art wise, is the adamantium bonding tank, which is just the ozolith, but it's a cool rethinking of it. Um, so for anyone that doesn't know, it's a one cost legendary artifact with whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, if it had counters on it, put those counters on Adamantium Bonding Tank. At the beginning of your combat on your turn, if Adamantium Bonding Tank has counters on it, you may move all counters from it onto target creature. So it's a way to like really pump up your creatures right before you go into smack with them. Um, so that one's kind of fun. I have Blade of Selves in here because it gives creatures Myriad, and being able to give that to Deadpool is insane. So if people don't know what that means, um, it's whenever a creature attacks for each opponent other than the defending player, you may create a copy or a token that's a copy of that creature that's tapped and attacking that player or a planeswalker they control. Exile the tokens at the end of combat. So you could basically switch the text boxes for those copies of Deadpool, pick other creatures on the field, and make Deadpool attacking them using their abilities, giving them Deadpool's abilities of basically nothing fun for that creature's controller and seeing what you can do with it. Um, Strionic Resonator being in there, artifact for two, pay two, tap it, copy target triggered ability you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. Um, so triggered abilities use the words when, whenever, or at, things like that nature. So that one's a fun one. I have Vidalcan Ori in here, which is one that Keith is not a fan of, but I think it's kind of fun. So for four, you can cast non-land cards as though they had flash. And then a fun one that is working with some of the sagas that I have that take control of creatures is Assault Suit. So for four, um, equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has haste, can't attack you or planeswalkers you control, and can't be sacrificed. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, you may have that player gain control of equipped creature until the end of turn. If you do, untap it. And it costs three to equip. So if I'm able to steal someone's creature, put the assault suit on it, give it back to them, and then just move it around and make a creature that I don't like not be able to hit me is kind of cool until they can get rid of the assault suit. So,
So, with and also with that, I mean, like, you know that like Iron Man has an assault suit like in the back of his closet somewhere.
oh yeah, it's like the Ironmonger. So, um, there's that and, you know, fun kind of things. So, um, I'm ready to move on to enchantments. Are you
So I
ready to?
feel, yeah, I feel like this is gonna be the most important part of this. So I'm ready to sit down and be told a story here.
Yeah, so this one I'm going to spend a little bit of extra time on. Um, just because this is what the deck is built around. So I appreciate you being able to stick around and listen. So we'll go ahead and just kind of go through most of them. The only ones that are in here that aren't sagas would be Historian's Boon. So whenever Historian's Boon or another non-token enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token. Whenever the final chapter of an whenever the final chapter ability of a saga you control triggers, create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying and vigilance. So that's another card that's in here that's trying to get to the end of sagas. So where we have the Barbara Wright and things like that, just getting to the last chapter, having that combo with Historian's Boon and being able to bring in some flying creatures because this I don't have a ton of flyers in here is kind of really nice. The other one's Rhythm of the Wild. So creature spells I control can't be countered. Non-token creatures I control have Riot. Rite of Passage. Whenever a creature I control is dealt damage, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Those are that's it. Those are the three that aren't sagas. So the first saga that I have here is Binding of the Old Gods. So the first part is destroy target non-land permanent and opponent controls. Part two, search your library for a forest card, put it onto the battlefield, tap and shuffle. Part three, creatures you control gain death touch until end of turn. So that's a fun way of, being able to attack all out with your tokens or with certain creatures you're okay with having go to the graveyard and come back. Um, that, okay, you can go ahead and block this, but your creature will die too unless you have a way of making that not happen. Um, the next one is from Warhammer. So it's the Birth of the Imperium. So part one, create a 2/2 white Astrades warrior creature token with vigilance for each opponent you have. So you're going to go ahead and make, two, three of them, depending on how many opponents you have. Part two, each opponent sacrifices a creature. Part three, draw two cards for each opponent who controls fewer creatures than you. So when you're, making them sacrifice a creature, and then if you can make sure that you're doing that, and then maybe you can cheat an extra lore counter right after that onto this one, then you can draw, two, four, six cards. It's kind of nice. Elspeth Conquers Death. Starts out with exile target permanent and opponent controls with converted mana cost 3 or greater. Goes into non-creature spells your opponent's cast costs 2 more to cast until your next turn. So if there's a way to keep that at level 2, try and keep that at level 2. And then part three is return target creature or planeswalker card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Put a +1/+1 counter or a loyalty counter on it. So it's kind of nice. She takes care of creatures and planeswalkers. I forgot to talk about the two planeswalkers I have, but they're not. I'll talk about them later. Kiora Best the Sea God, create an 8/8 blue Kraken creature token with hexproof. Tap all non-land permanents target opponent controls. They don't untap during that controller's next untap step. And then part three is gain control of target permanent and opponent controls, untap it. Kind of nice. Being able to freeze someone for a second if you can. And then, maybe you can, I will let you untap next time and not do this to you again if you're a good little person. The next one is the Scroll of Isildur. Gain control of up to one target artifact as long as you control Scroll of Isildur, and then the ring tempts you. Part two is tap up to two target creatures, put a stun counter on each of them. Part three is draw a card for each tap creature target opponent controls. So if you can have Scroll of the Isildur and Kiora Best of Sea God work together and have the scroll at chapter three, have Kiora at chapter two at the same time, it's going to be kind of nice. Be able to draw quite a few cards, and that's later in the game, so it'll be a nice little replenish of your hand if you've played quite a few cards. The next one is the Acrone War. So for starting out, you gain control of target creature for as long as the war remains on the battlefield. Two, until the next turn, creatures your opponents control attack each combat if able. And then for three, each tap creature deals damage to itself equal to its power. So that's another one that combines with Cure Best of Sea God. If I can get, that to level 3 and have the Scroll of Isildur at level 3 and have Cure Best of Sea God at level 2, it's just building and building and building on top of each other. So it's where I was saying I need to make sure that I'm paying attention to what this deck is doing. It's one of those stacks decks where you really do have to pay attention. Um,
One thing I did want to mention, I was like, when you're reading this, I was also kind of glancing through your creatures. Most of them have more toughness and power. So even if you turn your sideways, they wouldn't be as damaged by this. I know when it resolves it, you would have already untapped your stuff, but I don't know. Just if in situations where you were compromised and a creature was tapped for whatever reason, I think most of your creatures would be safe from that itself.
Yeah, that's very true. I didn't even think about that, but that's that's pretty nice. Um, the next one is the Antiquities War. So this is one where one and two are the same exact thing. So look at the top five cards of your library. You may reveal an artifact card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So being able to, um, kind of dig for that artifact that you want or two artifacts that you need. It's kind of nice. And then part three is artifacts you control become artifact creatures with a base power and toughness of 5/5 until end of turn. It's pretty nasty. If um, I don't have a ton of artifacts in this deck, but being able to have, the artifacts that I do have, the nine of them become creatures for a second and being able to smack people with them is kind of nice. Um, I only have four more. I'm sorry. The next one
Don't
is
apologize. I wish you had more.
the next one is the Eldest Reborn. So starts off with each opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker, and then each opponent discards a card, and then put target creature or planeswalker card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. So from a graveyard. So any creature that I want from anyone's graveyard comes under my control. It's pretty cool. This is one that you can go ahead and have everybody sacrifice a creature, which you don't get to pick what they're doing. You don't get to pick which card they discard, but you do get to pick, what's in the graveyard. And the good thing is you can have this one happen a couple of times if you want to bring it back. So the next one is the first Aronin Games. Create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. Part two is put 3+1/+1 counters on target creature you control. Number three is if you control a creature with power four or greater, draw two cards. So you're basically going to draw two cards because you've put the 3+1/+1 counters on something. So even if you put that on a 1/1 creature, it's at four. And then part four is create a gold token. And then the next one is the Horus Heresy. So this is another Warhammer one. For each opponent, gain control of up to one target non-legendary creature that player controls for as long as this remains on the battlefield. Number two is draw a card for each creature you control but don't own. So, um, you could either be drawing two, three, just depends. And then starting with you, each player chooses a creature, destroy each creature chosen this way. So starting with me, I can pick one of those creatures that my opponents are about to get back and go ahead and destroy that. Or, I can destroy one of my own creatures, which I don't know why I'd do that. But, being able to take one of their creatures, I can put the assault suit on one, give it back to somebody. I can give somebody else back their creature, and then the third person I just destroy their creature. It's kind of dirty, kind of fun.
Also, I do like the concept of having Tom Bombadil reading Warhammer 40K lore to the Avengers. That scratches my brain in a fun way.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. So, uh, I like it because we're melding together three different uh things that I'm a fan of, and it's kind of insane. Uh, and then the very last saga is There and Back Again from Lord of the Rings. So the first one is up to one target creature can't block for as long as I control There and Back Again, and I get tempted again. And then search your library for a mountain card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. And then number three is create Smaug. a legendary 6/6 red dragon creature token with flying, haste, and when this creature dies, create 14 treasure tokens. So kind of fun, kind of crazy. Another one of those where you'll want to cheat and maybe, you know, get ahead of get ahead of yourself and get to part three quicker, if you can. Um, I don't know that I really need to break down my mana base on this one. Um, I
I
tried to
mean,
do my. Go
yeah.
ahead.
I was just gonna mention you're in five colors, so I'm not seeing a lot of basics out there. It's looking like everything is gonna have to tap for more than one color in order to make this thing work.
Yeah, and I've got quite a few of snow-covered things or things from Kaldheim, just because I have a couple of things that say, when you pay with snow mana, you get extra this or that. That's why those are in here.
Oh,
Um,
the also the dual something that people don't always realize with like the dual colored snowlands is they are swamp mountains, so they are still like fetchable with like a far seek and stuff like that, which is really nice.
yeah, I have a couple of cards in here that say, search for a forest or this or that, and it's nice to be able to, pull out one of those dual lands without thinking about it. Um, that's another reason why they're in here. The downfall is they enter tapped, but it is what it is, and I'll still get benefits out of them. I guess I'll go back and talk about the two planeswalkers real quick. Um, they're mostly in here because they can bring back enchantments that I have, with Calyx's last ability being return all enchantment cards from a graveyard to the battlefield, and Rin the Realm Breaker being Loki, at the end of Loki. Spoiler alert, I'm sorry. Um, the ultimate on that being, you get an emblem with you may play lands and cast permanent spells from your graveyard. So it's kind of nice in case things go into the trash can and you want to grab them out of the trash can. Um, I have four cards in my sideboard for this one, that I've thought about putting in, but I don't know if I really need to. Um, them being Joe to the Unifier with, you know, doing ridiculous Joda stuff. Mind Unbound, um, which was just like another flavorful um, card, just with it being, um, what it is. For 4 and 2 blue at the beginning of your upkeep, put a lore counter on Mind Unbound, then draw a card for each lore counter on Mind Unbound. So that was one that would play with Goldberry, being able to, have those lore counters on there. And if I wanted to move them and then move them onto something else, it's kind of nice. Sphere of Safety. Creatures can attack you or a planeswalker you control unless the controller pays X for each of those creatures, where X is the number of enchantments you control. That could get out of hand, and get pumped up pretty big. Um, and then the last one is Vexing Puzzle Box. For three, is an artifact that whenever you roll one or more die, put a number of charge counters on Vexing Puzzle Box equal to the result. And then you can tap, add one mana of any color, roll a d20. And then you can tap it, remove 100 charge counters from Vexing Puzzle Box, search your library for an artifact card, put that card onto the battlefield, and then shuffle. Fun little, game to play. And it just fit in with the theme of, Marvel characters and different puzzles that they have, and you know fun little things to play with. So that's
Yeah.
kind of a breakdown of my deck, and
Yeah, I
I'm
think we
excited to play with it.
yeah, I'm excited to face it too. I think it was like a good job of like running the gamut of like the deck building process of what it can be. You can tool it like mechanically, or you can tool it flavorfully. I'm assuming that's a word,
Yeah, why not?
and have fun with it. So like you get a little bit best of both worlds. Like you have like the nice saga sub theme to your uh everything cool like Marvel deck, and like my Alania deck can be effective while sticking to only creature types found in Bloomburrow. So just kind of finding fun places to build because ultimately at the end of the day we are playing a game which is fun and that's the goal.
Exactly. And with that, does this episode resolve?
I think it resolves.
All right, perfect. I guess we'll see you guys next week. Thanks.
Later.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Hexproof from Ward. If you like what you heard, you can continue to listen to us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can watch us on YouTube. You can also give us a follow on Instagram and Blue Sky. We'll see you next week.